sorry, I'll get that right. VR46 MotoGP team's press officer Paul Bertrand sat there. There was a small celebration from him just a couple of moments ago, unsurprisingly, as Luca Marini jumped to the top of the timesheets. But yeah, as I said, this is the brand new media centre, about 50% full at the moment. There's a handful of journalists that have made the trip across from Europe, but a real crowd of journalists come across from all parts of Indonesia, and this of course is just a test. Just think what it's going to be like when we come back in 5 weeks time for the Grand Prix of Indonesia. It's going to be absolutely rammed full, and unsurprisingly as well, with the interest that the Indonesians have for MotoGP. But one thing I do want to show you is the best thing about the media centre, because there's two gentlemen to my right here we're going to show you who have made plenty of friends since we got here on Wednesday and Thursday. These guys have been making coffee for the full media centre and pretty much the entirety of the paddock as well. This is Ackley, who's been doing a brilliant job. He's a bit of a magician actually as well. Let's just see one of the lattes that he's made. This courtesy of Sajiwa Coffee. Look at that, a lovely little swan in the top of it, and tastes pretty good as well. Yeah, perfect, thank you very much indeed. I'll just put that down there and I'll come grab that later in a second. We've actually set him a challenge to see that by the time we return in 5 weeks time, he can change that swan into the MotoGP logo. If he can do that, we'll be very impressed. But yeah, he's been creating a lot of friends here, unsurprisingly. Because Bertie, as a former journalist yourself, you know that you guys like a coffee from time to time. But you come out to the media centre and just look at the views you can have as well. An incredible setting. This grandstand here that's currently under construction is going to hold around 30,000 people on race day. Sadly, with coronavirus restrictions still in place here, that only, and I say only, expecting around 65,000 on race day. But at full capacity, they can host nearly 150,000 people. So fingers crossed, in 12 months' time when we return again, it will be at 100% capacity. And what an atmosphere it will create. We've only a handful here already. Hello, guys. They're making plenty of noise. So, from myself and the Simon Crayfart fan club, back to you guys.
At Factory Yamaha, you can see these live pictures over in Mandalika right now, as I'm sure Fabio, with 8 minutes of the session remaining, is going to launch into another time attack. In fact, his former Factory Yamaha teammate Maverick Vinales is making big progress on the Factory Aprilia right now. Maverick's just gone up into 3rd place, but Fabio Quartararo seemed much more relaxed and content yesterday. You can see their practice start warmers, practice start tyres getting ready for Fabio Quartararo. That will be coming up immediately after the time session, but he seemed a little bit more content yesterday. The mojo was back up, I think it's fair to say, from Fabio Quartararo, proven here today by the fact that he's challenging for the top 3, looking good on a soft tyre, which he knows is going to be so important this year with qualifying. He has been the qualifying king of late in MotoGP, but Fabio just getting ready for some late track action here. But he did sound a little bit more upbeat last night, Lewis, than what he did in Sepang, certainly.
Yeah, it did. Maybe a bit of perspective, I think, looking at the testing programme as a whole. Of course, Sepang didn't go as well as Yamaha had hoped. He perhaps didn't meet the expectations they may have had going into this season. But as I say, if you apply some perspective to it, yes, the Yamaha didn't perhaps make the step forward that Fabio was looking for. It didn't have that boost of top speed that perhaps he was looking for. But it's still a pretty fantastic motorcycle. It won the Riders' Championship last season. Fabio Quartararo won more Grand Prix than anyone else, and it's certainly still a very, very nice bike to ride. You're just looking here through these change of direction in the first sector of the lap. Fabio Quartararo, very, very happy with that bike indeed. He was at pains not to point out yesterday. He didn't want to describe this as a Yamaha track. He doesn't really see it that way, but it certainly looks like it's a bike, a track, sorry, that's going to suit that bike more than Sepang did. And we know that Fabio Quartararo, if he gets anywhere near the front of the grid, he's going to race well on Sunday. What was interesting, though, coming back from Sepang, which is maybe what he'll be looking to work on here, he's in 4th at the moment, is he didn't feel that happy on new tyres. On new tyres, he wasn't quite as confident or as comfortable as he was on used tyres. As he mentioned yesterday, he set his fastest lap of the opening day here on 16-lap-old medium tyres. Now, obviously, that's changed today, but I think he recognises, as I mentioned a moment ago, just how crucial qualifying sessions are going to be this year. If he starts 6th on the grid with 3 or 4 Ducatis ahead of him, that's a huge mountain to climb, even for a rider as good as Fabio.
Yeah, and we can see on the timesheets how tight it is at the top. When we started this programme, about 20 minutes ago, there was a second or so covering the top 20 riders. One small mistake at the end of FP3 when you're battling for those qualifying places, or a mistake in either Q1 or Q2, it can be the difference between a top 6 on the grid or a place on the 6th row or lower. It's going to be vital. We keep talking about this, but qualifying will be super important. Fabio Quartararo then still lying in 4th place. Let's talk a little bit about his teammate, of course, Franco Morbidelli, working his way back to full fitness, working his way back to full confidence after an injury hit 2021 campaign. Now, of course, in the factory Yamaha team full-time. Kind of dipped under the radar a little bit so far this year, Lewis. I think to his defence last time out in Malaysia, yes, it didn't look great on paper, missed the top 20, but he missed out on a soft tyre time attack on that final rain hit day in Sepang. And reading his comments, you just get the feeling that he's starting to build that relationship with his new crew chief, Patrick Primer, which is never easy, and of course it's always so vital. Here is Franco Morbidelli now, over live in Mandalika. It's difficult for a rider, you know, it's a unique bond that a rider has with his crew chief. And when you're trying to start that new relationship, they're trying to get to that point where the crew chief can interpret what a rider means or what he's thinking just from a wink of an eye or some body language, and that relationship clearly is building, as Franco touched upon yesterday. And more importantly, he feels like his confidence and comfort is building with this new M1 as well.
Yeah, I think so. It's never always difficult to truly take the true picture from press release quotes that we send, because riders are very much usually glass half full when they're speaking in press releases.
There's always a positive spin.
There's always a bit of kidology going on. But Franco Morbidelli was very keen to point out how well he was working with his new crew chief, Patrick Primer, yesterday, and how great a job he was doing. So clearly that relationship is building and they're improving. And Franco Morbidelli just a moment ago was inside the top 10. He's just been knocked out of there with some of the improvements elsewhere, particularly from Maverick Vinales, who, as you mentioned, shot up the order. So yeah, it's positive signs for him. He hasn't become a bad rider overnight. Of course, those injury problems that he had with his knee late last year, as we're looking at a problem for, I think that's Brad Binder on the factory KTM, was coming towards the picture as he's pushed back. It looks like he's been pushed back from the exit of the pit lane, looking at the direction he's heading in. But yeah, Franco Morbidelli, he's not become a bad rider overnight. You just need to look at what he was doing on a two-year-old Yamaha at the start of last season. I think that second half of 2021, you kind of have to just write that off and just scrap that as Franco Morbidelli trying to get reacclimatised with the bike and with his body on the bike. And I think heading into 2022, I think he'll be fine. He says he's expecting to hit full fitness around Qatar. So perhaps he's still holding a little bit in reserve at the moment.
Yeah, these are live pictures over in Mandalika right now. That looks like KTM press officer Sebastian Kuhn doing his proper full-on Usain Bolt impression there. Pushing Binder back to pit lane. Now I'm not quite sure what's happened there. They'll have a quick check and a quick analysis. So that was Brad Binder looking to maybe go into time attack mode. Quickly, we've touched upon the factory Yamaha team. Let's have a quick look at the new with you R&F Yamaha team, Lewis. Progress, it looks like solid progress being made by Andrea Dovizioso and both Darren Binder. Not reflected in terms of the overall position, but